Yellarigu namaskara, sabiko namaste, vanakkam, adab, sat sri akal, and a very, very fresh good morning to all the ladies and gentlemen present here. Good morning. It would be great if everybody would shout out and say a louder good morning, guys. I'm not a teacher, that's okay. We can have a two-way interaction. Let's do this once again. Good morning. Thank you. That's like it. Well, a very, very warm welcome to all of you firstly. On behalf of the entire team of JSW and the Times of India, we welcome all of you to the third networking event under the ambit of the 11th edition of the Earth Care Awards. So yes, before we get started, I want all of you to make some noise for ourselves. Let's have a big round of applause for ourselves before we get this positive morning started, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. To quickly introduce myself, my name is Navyata, and I am going to be your presenter and energizer for today. Started in 2008, the Earth Care Awards, ECAs, a joint initiative of JSW and the Times of India Group, have been recognizing and championing efforts towards climatic mitigation and adaptation. The awards aim to recognize the work of individuals, organizations, and communities that are leading the way in combating the climate change, from reducing their carbon footprints to developing innovative technologies and initiatives. Think Through Consulting is our knowledge partner for the initiative. India Climate Collaborative, the Council of Energy, the Environment and Water, CEEW, Energy Swaraj Foundation are supporting us in the outreach. Please do visit our website, www.earthcareawards.com, to know about the categories, past winners, and surely participate and let the world know about our proud initiative. With this quick brief, we kickstart about the awards, and I once again welcome all of you as we will have a panel discussion on business and climate stewardship, pathways to a low-carbon future. This panel discussion is third in the series with an intent to bring industry leaders, academia, and sustainability experts together, those who can influence and drive businesses towards climate action. The discussions will focus on identifying actionable solutions and strategies that businesses can adopt to accelerate the acceleration towards a low-carbon economy and address the challenges posed by the climate change. And now it's time for me to invite Rupa Davane, Head Water Environment and Sanitation, JSW Foundation, to take us through the 10-year journey of Earth Care Awards. Before that, a quick intro about Rupa. She's pursued Masters in Environmental Sciences and MBA and comes with vast working in the field of environmental management for over 25 years. Having worked with environmental management consultancies, carrying out environmental impact assessment studies, she brings in passion while working with the community. Conservation and management of water resources are her areas of specialization. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and let's welcome on stage Rupa Davane, the Head Water Environment and Sanitation JSW Foundation, to join us on stage, please. A louder round of applause for the lady here, ladies and gentlemen. Make some noise. Namaste and a very warm welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I welcome all of you all for this beautiful morning. And you know, when we talk about, she just told us, told all of you all that this is the 11th edition of the Earth Care Awards. JSW and Times of India started talking about climate change way back in 2008, when we, not even like very few of us had heard about this term, and you know, the term was coined and it became the buzz. And all of us have started feeling the effects of climate change, and it's in our face. So whether we talk about the extremes of climate, droughts, rains, floods, landslides, and all the works together, I think now it's become a household name. Each and every child talks about climate change, which is very heartening to know. So if just to take you, she's given me this role of taking you all through the 13-year journey of Earth Care Awards. In 2008, when we began, it was a humble beginning. We had about, you know, the Earth Care Awards reward or recognize people who are in the climate change, adaptation, mitigation space, from organizations who come up with innovative solutions to individuals who create impactful initiatives for communities to work with. We've been recognizing, we've had winners for in the last 13 years. We've had 79 climate warriors, if I may call them, because they've done remarkable, exceptional work in the climate change space. So as we move ahead, just to take you through the journey, in 2008, we had a humble beginning. We had about 50 applicants. To the last edition, that was the 10th edition in 2022, we had over 1,800 applications. It was a huge job to even sift through them and, call them winners or not winners. It's unfair, actually, but in these kind of formats, you have to finally choose and pick a few to showcase their work. Everyone, whoever, in fact, applies for us is a climate warrior because they've been doing some work in this space, recognizing the need to work in the climate change space. So as we go ahead, we have 6 categories. The website that she mentioned about, www.earthcareawards.com, gives you all the details. We have 6 categories. The latest one that we wish to introduce this year is youth in the climate change space. I think this has come from as we meet more and more people, and we see the involvement of the whole youth, as we call them, and the innovations and the ideas that they bring to the table. Hence, the new category that we have introduced this year. We, of course, have the community category, which is extremely important. Our last panel discussion that we had in Guwahati was bringing various NGOs and CBOs who are working in the climate change space, working along with the communities to create resilience, adaptations, mitigations for the climate change, because they are the first ones to be affected because of all the various negativities that we look at, hear about the climate change. Of course, large-scale industry, that's where we are here. Today's panel discussion will take us through that. Innovations in the climate change space. Urban bodies, we've had a lot of applications from the urban bodies. For example, Surat Municipal Corporation has been able to achieve 70% of the requirement is coming from renewable energy. We've had Cochin International Airport as a winner in the past. They have managed, that's the first international airport which is totally working on renewable energy. So these are some great examples that come ahead. Something's wrong with the... Okay. Our jury is extremely, illustrious. Dr. Mashvedkar has been our chair jury for the last 5-6 years. It's a good fortune to all the experience and the knowledge, wisdom that he brings to the table. We have Shloka Nath from the India Climate Collaborative. We have Mr. Anurama Ghosh from CEW. We have Vibha Dhawan and Mr. Rajat Gupta from McKinsey. All the combined wisdom that they bring, when we present it to them, there's so much insights that come through all the information and the knowledge. The format of Earthcare Awards is we have launch ads this is the call for entry period when we are asking people to apply for it. We still have the window open up to 15th of June, and there's a lot of publicity that goes around. A lot of news are carried in Times of India because they are our media partner and they do all the buzz around for the awards. Social media is again a very big, very, very big platform that we have currently. We have right from Facebook to Twitter and all the other social media platforms. These are some of our past winners that we've had in the last 13 sessions, very big names doing exemplary work. In fact, there are a lot of other large-scale industry who've been applying, but this becomes such a vast space to even have them there, all of us. Mahindra & Mahindra are one of our past winners. We have him here today to talk about his experience in Earthcare Awards and how the perspective has changed. We've received a lot of feedback from our applicants saying the assessment process is so thorough that it also brings out a lot of points which they may have missed pointing out. So this is a forum where I'll be inviting our past winner to tell us what their experience has been in these past sessions. And I welcome you all once again, looking forward to a very interesting discussion to see how the big industry houses are taking us towards climate change positively, what we can do towards lowering our carbon footprints. Thank you once again. Welcome to the session.
Thank you so much, Rupa ma'am, for completing the moment for all of us. A louder round of applause for the lady, please, once again, everyone. Okay, so now moving on with the 11th edition running, we can proudly say it is India's most coveted awards for recognizing excellence in climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. This is a unique platform for companies to participate, highlight their accomplishments, and garner significant exposure. With this, I would like to now invite the winner from the 9th edition of awards from the industry category, Mahindra and Mahindra Limited, the Igatpuri plant. May I now invite Anirban Ghosh, the Head Center for Sustainability, Mahindra University, to share his experience. Before that, a quick intro about Anirban. He has been with the Mahindra Group since 1999, where he heads the Center for Sustainability at the Mahindra University. He was the group's Chief Sustainability Officer prior to his assessment. Having shaped Mahindra's sustainability framework, he guided the group to make ambitious climate commitments and enabled accelerated achievement of goals. Anirban has been recognized as a thought leader, a global C-suite sustainability champion, and a top 50 global sustainability leader. Everybody, let's welcome with a big round of applause Anirban Ghosh, the Head Center for Sustainability, Mahindra University, to join us on stage, please. Namaste and a very warm welcome to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Delighted to see you here. Always a pleasure to discuss this topic anywhere with anybody. Yes, I know we've won one award at one Earthcare Awards, but I also know that this is just the beginning of a very long journey. In these next 15 minutes, there's no way we'll be able to cover the whole subject, so I'm going to focus on a couple of things. One is the root cause, and the second is the so what for all of us. And in that context, we look at what the Mahindra Igatpuri plant did to win the Earthcare Award that was referenced. You know, when we talk about climate change, we usually end up talking about temperature rise, melting ice, cyclones, hurricanes, and all of it. These are the ways in which climate is changing, that is true. But what is the root cause of all of this? If you keep asking why, you will come down to a situation where you'll say the root cause of all of this is egregious pollution at multiple levels. Whether it is air pollution or water pollution or soil pollution, and it is because this pollution has got completely out of hand in a climate perspective that we are seeing all these other dystopian realities. So if we want to solve this problem, we've got to solve for the egregious pollution. And the moment you recognize that, the question one has to ask is, how do I as an organization contribute to this problem? And is there a way that I can stop contributing to this problem in a manner in which the planet benefits and so does the business? The good news is it is entirely possible to do, which is why the Mahindra Igatpuri plant got recognized with the Earthcare Award with all the initiatives that got taken. But I will come to that. Let me talk about the so what. You know, often when we talk of sustainability, you will hear comments like, oh, is this CSR? And oh, sustainability costs money. And oh, you know, is there a trade-off between growth and sustainability? These are all irrelevant, distracting, unnecessary questions. The real question to ask, the real question to ask along with trying to solve the egregious pollution problem is there a way in which we can leverage sustainability to do business better? Defining better business as a way in which you do business in which you don't have these negative externalities, and you create opportunities for yourself, for the business to grow. Is that even possible? Consider this. The entire automobile industry in the next 10 or 15 years would have reinvented itself. The entire construction industry is on the process of reinventing itself through materials, through processes, and so on. Manufacturing industries of various sectors are in the process of reinventing the way in which they do manufacturing, to the extent that you'll have a steel company asking a question that, do we have to have blast furnaces? Or if we do have blast furnaces, will they all be of the kind that they are today? We are actually sitting in the middle of what is likely the second industrial revolution, and this revolution may well be bigger than the first one. Because not only will we reinvent processes, technologies, etc., to do what we are doing better, but we will also bring in products, processes, and services which will help us do things that we haven't done before, like, say, renewable energy, like electric vehicles, like ways of processing plastic, whole material revolution in terms of circular economy and so on. This is the so what of climate change. A massive opportunity for future generations, certainly ours and the next couple, to reinvent the way we do things in the world. In this context, look at what organizations are doing and what they can do. One thing is to be clean in your operations. It's important, it's necessary, but it is not the biggest thing. It's a place you can start, and you must start, otherwise you will not get to the next place. Most of us are in that space now, cleaning up our operations. And that's how Mahindra Igatpuri plant got certified as the first net zero plant in our country. Because they said that if emissions is a problem, we will make sure that we are net zero on all of that. So all the energy efficiency, renewable energy, biodiversity, everything that you hear of as solutions, whatever could be implemented at the plant got implemented at scale. In fact, many of the innovations we did or experiments we ran, we did at the Igatpuri plant to see, hey, is this feasible? Can we now go and scale this in the other plants? Fortunately, those experiments went off very well. And today we have a whole bunch of plants, actually all of them, who are certified as zero waste to landfill. Many of them have become water positive. All of them have achieved energy efficiencies of 50, 60% already, and on their way to achieving their commitments way faster than was expected. Because all of this turned out to be value accretive for the business. This experiment is now moving into the space of climate solutions, which will help you and me to live a more planet-friendly life. Whether it is electric vehicles or bamboo toothbrushes or bioplastics or clean cement or clean steel, this is the big story for the future. All of us will arrive at a cleaner operation sooner or later, rather sooner than later. But the question is, by when will we get the clean products out so that our whole life we have the opportunity to live in a cleaner way? That's what I wanted to share with you. When you talk about climate change, focus on the pollution and focus on the solution for the pollution. The other things, the floods, etc., are not something you and I can solve. At best, there'll be some adaptation practices. But we have to do things to ensure that the situation does not get worse. And that's what we are trying to do at the Mahindra University by training thousands of kids on sustainability. Not just having a separate course for 30 MTech students or something, but ensuring that all 3,000, soon to be 10,000 students are studying topics of sustainability across the subjects in every school. That's the goal we have. And I hope there is a way of engaging some of you in that journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You still had 7 minutes, but that's okay. I'm just pulling your leg. Okay, so now moving on, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to invite our moderator for the day, Vijay Ganapathy, co-founder and partner, Development Sector Advisory from Think Through Consulting. A quick intro about Vijay. Vijay Ganapathy is an experienced development sector professional with over 21 years of expertise in thematic areas such as corporate ESG strategy, natural resource management, science and technology innovations, and microfinance. Prior to establishing TTC in 2015, Vijay served in leadership roles at EY and KPMG, where he provided ESG consulting services, assisting corporates in developing scalable and sustainable ESG strategies and programs. Let's welcome our moderator for the day, Mr. Vijay Ganapathy, to join us on stage, please. Welcome, sir. Very warm welcome. And now moving on, it's time for me to invite Anita Arjundas, Executive Director, Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment from A-Tree. Anita is an entrepreneurial leader with multi-sector experience in the corporate world and the development sector. Anita is currently Executive Director at A-Tree, Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment, a globally recognized not-for-profit in biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. Anita also serves on the advisory boards of the Nature Conservancy India and the Center for Sustainability at the Mahindra University. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. And now, moving on to our next speaker, we have Shweta Ramdas, Sustainability Lead, Amazon India Operations. She leads various sustainability initiatives as part of Amazon's climate pledge across renewable energy, buildings, sustainable transportation, packaging, water stewardship, and the circular economy. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. And now, moving on. It's time for me to welcome on stage Prabodha Acharya, the Chief Sustainability Officer from JSW Group. Mr. Acharya partners with CEOs, functional heads, senior executives, and operation heads to develop and drive sustainability strategy for the JSW Group companies of steel, energy, cement, paints, infrastructure, etc. Mr. Acharya provides the thought leaderships through his capacity as the Chairman of Climate Change and Energy Committee of ISA, the Vice Chair of Climate Change and Environment Subcommittee of ASSOCHAM, members of Climate Change and Circular Economy Committee of FICCI, and member of Climate Change and Environmental Committee of CII, member of Environment Committee of World Steel, etc. A very warm welcome to you, sir. And also joining us, our next member, we have Chitra Bairegowda, the Head of Environmental, Social and Governance, ESG, Persistent Systems Limited. As Head of Environmental, Social and Governance, ESG, Chitra helps strategies and integrate ESG value creation at Persistent across all the stakeholders. In this role, Chitra collaborates with business leaders to articulate an ESG strategy that is directly aligned with their business goals. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. And let's have a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, before we get the panel discussion. And over to our moderator, Mr. Ganapathy, over to you.
Thank you. I would like to welcome all, and we'll try to make it a very informative session. It's good to see so many people out here, and thank you for coming. Thank you for taking time for this very critical and important discussion that we plan to have. Before starting, I would like to say that I have been in these kind of sessions. I have been moderator, I have been panelist, in some cases MC as well. Not as good as you, but yeah, I was there. I was also in the audience. And what I realized is, at times, moderators take a lot more time and then not letting the panelists speak. So today, my job will be to ensure that the panelists speak, whatever knowledge that they have, and I believe more than 100 years of experiences over here, to hear more from them, to know more from them, and then give audience the opportunity to pose some questions, comfortable, uncomfortable questions, so that we can get more out of this particular session rather than just meet and greet. So without much ado, my first question will be to Shweta. Because she's from Amazon. Amazon is doing a lot of good quality work when it comes to net zero, when it comes to emission standards, systems, processes. And also they had, business-wise, they're doing pretty good. So I'd like to understand how these, how you can integrate climate consideration into business strategy and as an opportunity for growth. How do you think these two things go together? Because also Anirban mentioned that there has to be business opportunity, because for business also, climate change is critical. Climate change needs to be as part and parcel of their strategy. But at the end of the day, the business has to do business. So they have to grow, they have to be profitable. How these two things merge? Where is that integration happening?
Thank you. Thank you, Vijay. Very pertinent question, and I'm happy to give you and share Amazon's perspective. I think Mr. Anirban very rightly pointed out that I think you don't have to necessarily pursue growth. I think our ulterior motive here at Amazon is to transform the way that we do our business, to make sure that we are a more sustainable company. I'd like to reiterate that for us, we are customer obsessed. Customers are at the heart of everything that we do, whether it's innovation, whether it's the products that we put out in the market, et cetera, and the way that we serve our customers. So when you put customers at the heart of it, solving for challenges that customers face, such as the existential threat through climate change, becomes a very important matter to address. And at Amazon, we're addressing this, we address this by starting off with a very bold ambition. We co-founded the Climate Pledge along with the architect of the Paris Agreement, Cristina Figueres, and set out a goal for ourselves that we will be net zero by 2040. And that's 10 years ahead of the Paris Agreement. So we started off with an ambitious goal. Following on with that ambitious goal is an action plan that can help you achieve that. And at Amazon, we're doing that in a number of ways. We have our renewable energy goal. We are the largest corporate buyer of renewable energy across the world. We've held that position since 2020. And committing to investing in solutions, and renewable energy tends to be one of them, is one of the things that we're doing. We're looking to electrify our fleet. As all of you are aware, I think transportation is one of the key ways in which we serve our customers, and therefore decarbonizing our transportation fleet is another very important way in which we're trying to achieve this. Here in India, we have a public goal to deploy 10,000 EVs. That's just one of the ways in which we're looking to transform our fleet. We're also looking at other innovative solutions, whether it's alternate fuels, whether it's alternate technologies. So we're constantly looking out and identifying those opportunities that can help us scale our goal and achieve our goal faster. I think many of you would probably be very closely associated with packaging, right? As an Amazon customer, and I hope there are many of you out there. Packaging, again, remains at the heart of the way in which we try to get better, be more sustainable. We do understand that we have a long way to go. We don't have solutions that can totally get us away from packaging. I think one of the challenges is the way that the supply chain is built out in our country. We do need protection for the goods and the products that you as a customer order. And therefore, we've done a number of things. We've eliminated single-use plastic from our packaging format. We've got programs such as packaging-free shipments, where many of you may have received packages without any additional Amazon packaging on it. It comes with the original brand packaging. So completely eliminating the need for packaging and identifying what products and categories of products that subscribe and can be sent that way is another way in which we're innovating. We're also involved in a lot of circular economy programs. We're minimizing our waste footprint. We're also driving water stewardship. We are recognized, being in India, water is a scarce resource, so we're also driving a lot of those initiatives. So I've talked to you about how we transformed, or we've converted a bold and ambitious goal into an action plan. And the third part of that is really building out that cultural shift, whether it's within the organization or whether it's in the ecosystem that we operate. And again, there we're doing a number of things. We're engaging our employees. We have something called the Sustainability Ambassador Program, where every single Amazonian then becomes responsible to be that ambassador of change, to make the organization more sustainable from where they are, right? And not everyone can see from all the different angles that an organization operates. And therefore, sustainability ambassadors play a very key role in identifying those opportunities. We also work with the larger ecosystem. So while no single organization can do this alone, we have what is called the Climate Pledge. I talked about that earlier. And the real objective of the Climate Pledge is to foster an accelerated innovation plan for products and services that are out there. So when more companies join the climate pledge and are part of this and commit to an ambitious target like net zero by 2040, it forces them to also innovate. And so when everything is happening at a more accelerated scale, whether it's within the organization or it's outside, you see change happening. And that's what we really want at the end of the day. Thank you.
Well spoken, and already we have time left. So that means when I ceded my time, it helped us to contribute more here. So everyone will get more time. We will have more time for questions as well. What Shweta mentioned, it has a good segue for my next question as well to Anita. Because what we realize is Earth is for all. It is all our responsibility to ensure sustainability in the way we do, not just by reducing single-use plastic, by reducing pollution, by using public transport, all those things. One question comes is that it's responsibility not just of business, but for all the people engaged. So it is of the broader shareholders, stakeholders as well. So for my question to Anita will be around what can be the effective strategies for fostering a culture of sustainability within an organization, and how to include other stakeholders, employees, supply chain, to be part of this journey. Because the company may have a vision, company may like to do these things, but to engage with everyone and everyone share that vision, how to go about doing that?
Thank you, Vijay. I'm going to draw on two parts of my experience. One is a decade and a half that I spent with the Mahindra Group running the real estate business, and that was a journey of actually moving the whole organization on a path of sustainability. And then a little bit later on some of the points you raised on how do we get other stakeholders involved. I think the larger context that when we look at a sustainability journey and we look at a sustainability organization, you've often heard about the role of the CEO and the board in terms of us setting the pace and driving the change. And I'll come back to that later for a good reason. I think what's equally important is to figure out the structure and governance of the sustainability organization within the organization. Is it sitting there within CSR? And I don't mean any disrespect there. I'm just making a statement of fact. Or is it sitting as part of strategy? How deeply integrated is it with the organization's core business strategy? If you don't answer those questions up front, then sustainability will always be at the fringes of an organization. Equally important is how are we giving decision rights to the sustainability organization within the large organization? Do they have the ability to drive change or not? Or is it just input and effort to drive change, but not really having the decision rights to do that? When we look at R&D allocation, when we look at capital expenditure allocation, when we look at core business strategy, does sustainability have a seat at the table? More importantly, over time, is it actually deeply integrated and enmeshed with the way you approach strategy, capital allocation, and R&D spends? So to me, these are very, very important first step principles around how do you build a culture of sustainability within an organization. You need that structure and governance to make it happen. But equally, you need to be able to embed metrics of performance, review, and incentives, which are similar to all other metrics of review and of performance and incentives. So just taking a specific example, way back in 2010, when the Mahindra Life Spaces, which is the real estate business, started on its sustainability journey, we integrated our approach to sustainability into the mission of the organization. We actually rewrote the mission of Mahindra Life Spaces. We then decided 100% of our portfolio would go down the green path. That was embedded into the balanced scorecard of the company way back in 2011, much before it was mandated anywhere in the group. So there was a 10% weightage in the BSA for sustainability, which means every employee in the organization automatically got linked to those metrics. So I think these are important aspects of culture, and which is why the CEO's role and the board role becomes extremely important, because it's not just about desiring to be sustainable, but how do you put in place the organizational DNA that is required to make it happen. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that when you look at it from a, Anirban spoke about, you start with disclosures, then you move to cost cutting, and then you move towards clean, and then you try to move towards green products. And finally, you're really looking at how do you rethink your own production and consumption processes. And if you're going to go that deep and that far, then you really need leadership commitment to be able to make it happen. Otherwise, it becomes a law of diminishing returns exercise. You feel very good in the beginning, you start out with disclosures, you get energy efficiency, you get water efficiency, you see cost reduction in the plant. People feel good about it. But then at the next step, how do you get your customers engaged to want to buy green solutions, to be willing to pay for green solutions? How do you get your supply chain integrated? How do you get the government to look at policy from a perspective of supporting behavioral change? All of these factors then start coming into play. I'll stop there for now. Yeah.
You made a very valid point of diminishing return, which is basically, you can see, it's called Kuznets curve, which is an inverted U. The benefits of being in this, in the initial stages, you will have more. But once every other competitor, everyone starts picking it up, they start doing it, and then it keeps on reducing. So every effort, every dollar which goes in, the diminishing return. There is a diminishing return. And for that, CEO commitment becomes very, very critical. Because without that, as soon as the margins reduces, this should not be the first thing that goes out of the window. That whenever the cost cutting happens, it should not be the sustainability CSR that goes and says, okay, let us wait, let us do the business part and then. So when it becomes part of strategy, then it is there. It is not that as one element of business, but it's core business as well. Now, moving forward, we have Prabodh Acharya. The challenge for him, and that is what I asked him as well, the challenge is, even if he does a lot of good work, he cannot participate in this award. Even he won't get award for doing a lot of good work that he would be doing within JSW. So at least here, we will give him that opportunity to at least talk about what are the good things that is happening within GSW when it comes to climate action, climate change mitigation or adaptation. And my question will be, what are the kind of work that JSW is doing which we can link towards climate risk mitigation for ensuring business continuity? And I will give you more time because, as I mentioned, you are not going to get awards. So this is your award for doing good work around climate change, climate action.
Thank you, Vijay. I think as a West, I welcome you all for this event. And thanks recognizing the fact that I have this opportunity to impress upon to you and by this to jury that we are also doing good jobs, but that you judge. You know, JSW as a group, we are into sectors which are into primarily manufacturing. We are known as a steel maker to the country, the largest steel maker. We make cement, we generate power, we manage transportation. So all these, when it comes, it drives the feeling that these are areas which is contributing to the climate change rather than being a solution. But I'll tell you the other side of the story, that how we are a solutions rather than a problem. But before that, importantly, you asked about climate change as a strategy for the business. The biggest challenge in any organization, and I'll correlate to JSW, in any organizations, to do anything new, as Anirban stated that we are in the second industrial revolutions, truly, we need to change the mindset. Mindset of all the people. I completely agree that the mindset of the top management has to be changed fast, and then gradually everybody need to be part of that. Now, if we have to change, I think all my speakers told about that, but if we want to change the mindset of the people who are running the business, where I should focus? I have understood the business run with 3 primary objectives: greed, fear, and recognition, in that order. The greed is the most important thing. The business job is to do business, and provide return to all the stakeholder. Earlier they used to call shareholder. I'm extending that to all the stakeholder, and that their environment comes into picture. But you need to be profitable for being existing as a business. So bottom line is the bottom line for the business. That's the important thing. Second is fear. If there is a regulations, pressures from the stakeholder, you have to do it. Otherwise, you do not get the license to operate. And the third thing is recognitions. I should be pat on the back. Yes, I am doing a good job. I am being recognized for all these things. But the first two things, if doesn't happen, third things doesn't happen. So this is all you are trying to get the feel-good factor, to get the pat in the back that you have done a good job, right? But let me address the first two things, because that's important. If those two things has not been part of your business strategy, the award and recognition doesn't have any meaning, and possibly you will not get if you are not done good in first two things. So therefore, if any organizations is looking to integrate sustainability, or nowadays we always discuss climate change being synonymous to sustainability right now, look for the business opportunity that can be exploited because of the climate change mitigations, and that need to be part of your strategy. Now, if that is not convincing, that means if the climate change mitigation is not going to give back you the money, then your strategy is not going to work, believe me, right? Look at the example. Why the energy transition is happening at the scale which is happening today. It was not happening 10 years before or 20 years before. Because it is good for business. So therefore, any organizations, either in the business of generating energy, or most of the business using the energy, like Shweta talked about renewable energy being used, so she's a big user of energy. The natural transition is to get a clean energy in the cheaper cost. So therefore, renewable energy or energy transition is becoming an important aspect of your climate change strategy. Now, if I go back to JSW, what we are doing, now we have a company called JSW Energy, which is a publicly listed company, and we have integrated climate change into business strategy. What we have decided that we will be building only renewable and new energies to meet the clean energy demand of the society, and most importantly, for the group's demand. We have calculated we need almost around 7 gigawatt of renewable energy for our consumption internally in the group. To give an idea how much that is, the entire Southeast Asia has a plan to achieve 7 gigawatt by 2030. So that's the kind of renewable energy needed within the group. And that is going to be obviously provided by our sister company, that is JSW Energy. So it becomes a natural, good business sense to go for energy transition. Our target is to generate 20 gigawatt by 2030, where 80% will be renewable energy. Of course, we are looking at new molecule like green hydrogen, pump storage, and other storage devices. But what I'm telling, it makes business sense to transit to renewable energy because it's good for business and it's good for climate. So that is one example. Second example, I will come back to the future, long distance goals. But we need to focus. I was told CEO looks typically for 3 years, CFO looks for quarterly results. And everybody, if you look at in organizations, they don't look beyond 1 year or 2 years. Only the chief sustainability officer looks at 10 year, 30 year, 40 year, and they told, you have no standing, you don't talk about now, you talk about something we will never see, because by that time we would have all retired. So therefore, it is very important, being the chief sustainability officers of the organizations, you driving those business decisions, not only in favor of environment or climate change, it is important to drive the point that it is good for business and it gives business return. And then that first point I told is the challenge to change the mindset can happen, and you address the greed factor, right? Efficiency improvement is going to be a key lever. Before we really clean all our operations and finding a solutions to clean all our operations, We have to focus on what we have right now and how we can get best out of it in a better manner. And that is where the efficiency improvement comes. It can be energy efficiency, it can be operational efficiency, it can be material efficiency, it can be people efficiency, it can be any efficiency. So please look at that. And that is where, if you look at JSW Group, we are focusing on efficiency improvement as a big lever, again to factor the grid and also the clean the environment and clean the climate, right? The other day, I was actually talking to one of the operation head of one of my biggest steel plant, which is very close to this place in Vijayanagar. We are a 12 million ton steel plant operating and planning to double its capacity by another 2-3 years. I was telling, and in fact, we have implemented all the best technologies there to capture all the waste heat and reusing them. But with that, there is an opportunity. Any exhaust gas more than 70 degrees can be reused back. Yeah. Instead of talking technicality, I told boss, you are pumping out 1 crore rupees every day out into atmosphere. He said, what? What do you say? I told, yes. So I get the calculation in the GCal, but I told not that you are wasting the energy. I told you are pumping out and wasting 1 crore per day. And that caught the attention. Then we are making plan how to change. Because, our sector where we are operating, I need to focus on what assets we have, because steel or cement, we are very capital intensive. I cannot make those changes overnight. If you have invested huge money, it has to give return for some time. But then how we can make those efficient to give more out of less? And that is another example that how we can integrate those into the business decisions. In the sense you get the benefit, but it should excite to your operational managers, your CEOs, to really take it seriously and put a part of strategy. Otherwise, we can talk about big things. As Anirban stated in the morning, that we can talk about the flood, water, all those doesn't bother to a business, right? So his business to bother is that how they can do better, not only financially, but that gives us benefits outside. The third example I want to say that how you can really motivate that greed factor. I'm coming back to that. There are enough opportunity right now that you can have money branding it to some kind of sustainability, ESG as clean or green, right? And that is where you can excite your CFOs to be a part of your bandwagon and be a supporter. And believe me, they are the key people in the organizations because they control the money. To having them on your side is very important. And that is where we worked in JSW. Across the group last year, we raised almost $1.6 billion worth of funding investment through these routes. Is it cheaper? At the moment, yes, because when we have seen in our example, in our case, all the business when we went to market to raise fund, by branding them on sustainability and linking to a KPI, promising that you will reduce your emissions, we get over-subscription. When you get over-subscription, you can tighten your rate. And that is where your cost of borrowing can reduce. Going ahead, is it going to really give you a benefit in less cost of borrowing? I don't know. But I believe this is going to be, ask of the investors going forward. But what I was telling, when you work with your financial community, you need to help them so that they can help you. So there are many such examples where we are working just to see that we address the interest of each section of the business who are running the business, and therefore it becomes the part of their own strategy and KRA. It's very important that the KRA is not forced upon, but you do in such a manner, it is automatically part of their KRA. By the way, in our organizations, all our senior management has 30% variable pay linked to sustainability performance. So I'm in a good spot. I don't do anything. That's what. And then it's not forced upon. It is taken voluntarily, or in such a manner that it was worked out. They had no objections. Yes, it's good because they understand it's good for me. It's good for my CEO, good for operation manager, good for CFOs, good for the section heads, good for the utility manager because you see the energy bills coming down. So therefore, when you integrate the sustainability into your business practices and strategies, very much essential. Make the changes of the mindset of the people. Now I talked about the change in the mindset of the top levels. Because any change you want to have, again, I am a science student, so I believe in the Newton's law. To make the change of the state of any object, you need an external force, right? That external force usually in organizations come from very top, either from the board level or from the very top level. But having that force, you need to sustain that momentum. You need those down the level to have the change in the mindset to continue that momentum. And that's where now we are working at each level. We have hired, of course, one of the best consultants in the world. They are working with our people. We are working with each level of the organizations and again showing them what's in there for them. Climate change has to be a benefit to everybody. So in this sense, I think I'm taking long time. I'll stop here.
Not that. The challenge, the more is because there is a question associated with that. So I just wanted to stop you here so that you can answer to that as well, rather than me not asking the question. So I wanted you to wait. We'll come to that question as well. But he pointed out a very critical thing, and that is, to some extent, people listening, they would all be thinking for all chief sustainability officers, 30% should be the variable bonus, variable pay for reaching the sustainability goal. So that would be a challenging thing. But nonetheless, he made a very valid point. And the valid point is that for businesses, this is very critical. And that is where our ingenuity and innovation comes in. To find those solutions which not only caters to the climate change, climate action part of it, but also builds the business, which also helps the business. And to be very frank, and this is a common sense, and you would have realized this across as well, wherever there is money to be made, there are interests which moves towards that. So I always say this, that money is the gradient in which the river of interest flows. So it will always be the case, and that is where our innovation ingenuity comes in. Now moving forward, for Chitra, I have a very it's a technical question. For all others, I didn't ask a technical question. Here I'm going to ask a technical question on science-based targets, because persistent systems have talked about net zero climate action, net zero commitment to reduce GHG emission. So what is it that persistent systems are doing in terms of science-based target initiative, and how other corporates can integrate within the sector itself? Because I realize that I do not want to cross sectors within your sector in technologies, how SBTI can help in net zero emission. You have few, I look forward for your comments on that.
Thanks, Vijay. Okay. Thanks, Vijay. And this is not something new. While all of us know, the first thing what we need to do is to measure what we are doing, right? And that all of us will do in any of the things, whether it is operations, whether it is efficiency, whether it is reduction, and so on. So once you measure, it is also important to see how do you actually align your metric to the goal what you have taken. So let's say you have a goal to reduce 10% of your energy efficiency. You measure and you say that, okay, I need to take, I'm at 2 and probably I need to increase by 8% to meet my 10% goal. So what is the standard for the net zero, which is available today? Again, it is completely voluntary. It is not a regulatory requirement as of now in India. Now, how organizations can adopt these, voluntary standards? And one of the guidance for the net zero climate action goal or net zero reduction is SBTI, which is Science-Based Target Initiative. What the standards say is, whatever reduction target or the goals you take, you have to use science, technology, and then link it to your goal. It's not that invariably I say I reduce 10% or 20% or 30%. What goes in, to deliver on those targets is very important. So what it also says is, once you start measuring whether it is your direct emissions or indirect emissions, and how much of control you have on these emissions, and how much are they manageable. Now, it is organization prerogative to say, I have only control on these emissions, and I will only take these goals as part of my commitment, right? For example, let's say we measure scope 1 emissions, which is the direct emissions, where you have full control. Scope 2 emissions, which are indirect emissions, you don't have control, but you can influence because you are the only consumer of that. Scope 3 emissions, which is your value chain emissions, neither it is controllable nor manageable, but through your buying size or spend size, you can still choose what products or what materials or what infrastructure you can influence to buy that. Now, accumulating all of these and measuring all of these is important, not leaving any one of them. Scope 1 is important, 2 and 3 all are important. Now, once you aggregate all your emissions, now how do you link it to the target? Can I leave scope 3? Can I leave portion of scope 2? Again, a lot of, it's a debate, and a lot of companies, and including us, we think through whether this is really important for us to inventorize. Do we have a control on that? And is there even opportunities for us to make that reduction, especially the scope 3? Scope 1 and scope 2 is very straightforward answers. All of us know the answer, and we have solutions in the market available. Go for more of renewable energy, And today, if you think from persistent, what we are doing is 46% of our, energy sources is met with the renewable power. And rooftops, there are windmills, which we have installed, and so on. So, which is a direct solution to the problem. And then, yes, of course, 10%, if you look at any reduction of scope 1 and scope 2, 10% is something only which you can achieve through your energy efficiency, 10 to 15%. And remaining around, 60 to 70% or 80% through the renewable energy. And remaining through operational efficiency, your infrastructure efficiency, and so on. So at least there you can, or do something where you can achieve 100%. Now the question is the scope 3, right? And if you follow SBTi guidelines completely, it is very difficult to follow those guidelines and then incorporate all the inventory as part of a scope 3, right? And then for us, being in the IT sector, business travel is our highest spend in our scope 3. Now, whether this is a manageable, for some extent, yes, you can put in policy, you can allow people, to fly whether economy class or business class, and then you can, all of this will happen only through policy change. And how much of that will help you in this reduction? Not too much, right? And because for the business, you have to fly. Do you have options where you can go for a green aviation fuel? Yes, there are certain airlines which offer you, but not all. There are cheaper, flights which you can take because they use, different, because otherwise your journey is too long. So there are multiple options. So we still have not nailed some of these things. A lot of things are questions for us, but at least the guidelines is helping us or navigating us, our thought process. What is important to the organization? How do we measure? How do we inventorize? And how do we link it to our goal? And so I do recommend all of you to read that standard, which is very, very exhaustive. And then the more and more we read, a lot of Pandora box. It opens up a Pandora box. A lot of questions. Are we doing the right thing is the first question, which comes up in the mind. So with that, I'll take a pause.
Thank you, Chitra. Now coming back to you, that's what I mentioned earlier. JSW Group, if you see, there are so many different companies which are part of it. How should we ensure that the vision which is at the leadership of sustainability and climate action, it percolates to all the group companies, because each one is operating in its own sector, which has their own challenges. And so what can be the system process that can be built into, and that is for all the companies which are big conglomerates and groups? What can be done about it, and how to go about doing that?
Thank you, Vijay. I could understand now why you stopped me, because you had a question in mind. Thank you. Now look, as a business, besides the climate change, what other things which is going to have an impact or having impact? I always put three broad buckets, and that is impacting the business or is going to impact the business in a big way. Climate change, of course, we talked about that, but besides that, the nature and the inequality, these are the two other aspects that have a great impact on a business. So therefore, we need to address all three things or get prepared to address all three things by changing the processes which is existing in organizations so that we remain resilient. Now, if I consider JSW, all my business, 99% of my business is completely dependent on nature. Besides we creating an impact on the nature, which anyway we have to clean it up and we have to manage. There is no excuse. That will take my second funda is the fear part of it, right? So that you have to do, there is a regulation, but we want to go beyond regulation, which is happening. But most important thing, all the raw materials is sourced from the nature, right? How do we address that continuation of supply of the raw materials? We always focus, when we call for raw material, we always focus what exactly go into the process to convert to a product. For example, if I take the steel, we focus on coal and iron ore. We forget water is a big raw material for any of the industrial processes. And India as such a country, we are into water stress. And unfortunately, most of the operations where we are operating also, they are water stress. Now, how do we take care? And if I have to take care, is changing my own processes is going to give me results? No, it is not going to. We know water is a resource. When there is a conflict arise, the society will get a precedence and the industrial process will close. I have seen in my career that many of the industry getting closed for months because of the availability of water, and water is diverted to the society. So therefore, it is important to work that issue in the entire watershed rather than changing your own processes. Similarly, in inequality, you see the increasing inequalities across in the society and also within the organizations. If you do not address those, that will create disharmony and will impact to the operations. We have seen some of the factory being closed for that, right? Because when you do not take care of your society and only focus on making money, it will definitely impact that. So to address all these big, broad issues, what we have done in JSW, first of all, we have defined a vision that we call sustainability vision, because we understand sustainability means different thing to different people, different things to different organizations, even within the organizations, different things to different functions. So to bring in a uniformity, first we define what my vision is, what we want to achieve. That very much defines what sustainability is for JSW as a group. Now having that a vision, it's very much important to have a strategy and a framework that how you drive down the mechanisms to achieve that. And that is where we did a detailed stakeholder consultations. We asked our all stakeholders and we came out with 17 areas where we need to focus. Please note they are not 17 SDGs. We call focus area, they are different. And mostly it came out on environment bucket, most of the issues came out because I told we are in a sector that is most dependent on the nature. So quite naturally it came that all the environmental issues came larger. But we ensured that we covered all those. Those 17 focus areas we have identified. Now to implement those across the businesses and the group on a uniform manner, first thing we did is a detailed policy commitment against each of those focus areas. Please note my policy commitment, if you go to my website, it's not a one-pager or a half-pager. It's very detailed, 2-3 page. Very clearly tells what we want to do, our commitment to all stakeholders. Having the commitment to drive those to implementation, we worked with something called a framework, where we have defined When we tell what to achieve in our policy, then how to achieve we have defined in our standard. When we defined our standard, we take account of all international and national standards, then implementing those. So then the next question is that to have a robust governance mechanism to see if we are progressing as we have committed. And that is where we have a very high-level, board-level committee that review the performance in each business, not only one business. In every business, we have a board-level sustainability committee which reviews the performance every 6 months. Then, in each of the business, in the executive committee, as I stated earlier, everybody executives have 30% KRA, so they are naturally reviewing in each month, every month. They review the performance along with their, sales performance, inventory performance, production performance, what is the sustainability performance. And below that, we have created a multifunctional group called Climate Action Group. Although the name is Climate Action Group, but they review all sustainability performance on a monthly basis. What we have done now, in each of our factories, because we are, manufacturing sector, in each our factory, something called DPR, Daily Production Report, which is reviewed on a daily basis by the head of the facility. He reviews sustainability performance on a daily basis. If you ask my operation in charge to ask what is your CO2 emission today, he will be able to do. What is your water consumption, what is your energy consumptions? Because these are directly related to their business performance. So that is the governance mechanism we have set. Now, as many of the companies does, we obviously report to our stakeholder on an annual basis through our integrated report. But as is holistically, we are driving sustainability across all the businesses so that on a group level, we should be able to achieve our vision, what we have committed to our stakeholder. In this, one thing we should not forget, it is a serious commitment. Therefore, it requires serious commitment in terms of financial resources, human resources, and technological resources. We have found solutions in providing financial resources. Looking for right people for the right job is an ongoing process. We are having a great challenge finding the technological resources right for being ready for the future. And that's the challenge. Because the future is not going to be the same what we are doing today. The way we are making steel today is not going to be the way we are going to make steel tomorrow. The way we are going to make energy today is not going to be the same way we are going to make tomorrow. So that is where we have now, very recently, created a ESG fund where we are looking for startups in the clean tech areas. By many of you might be in the audience. We are going to fund them. By doing that, we have access to a cleaner technology faster than others, plus in the process we make money by investing. So this is how we are driving sustainability strategy across the group, across the business, and I'm very happy to report it is almost a way of life today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to hear that, and if there are startups, not only for the Earthcare Award, you can also see this fund as well going forward. I'll come to Shweta here. Shweta, this is going to be a bit more than just Amazon, but what are the key challenges that businesses in India are facing when they look out for climate action? What is it according to you is the challenge? Where exactly it's lacking or not lacking, and what are the how exactly we can overcome these?
Thanks for that question, Vijay. Prabodha earlier alluded to this. He talked very eloquently about good for business, right? Like what is good for business in many cases right now is not necessarily good for the climate, and that's why we're all here talking about this topic. From an Amazon perspective, what we've seen is for many things, solutions in the current day exist. And those are easy to implement. We've implemented many of them. We also are faced with challenges where there are the hard to abate areas of our business. I'll give you an example. So for example, if you look at long haul trucking, we currently in India, we're just emerging, we're just starting to see solutions come out. We're still evaluating whether battery electric vehicles is the solution, should hydrogen vehicles be the solution. So we are at a very early stage. So what that does is, oftentimes when you have solutions like that, they're never at, at cost parity that businesses always require and need for you to be able to implement them. So you're faced with challenges of adoption, and when it comes to Amazon, it's always at scale, and therefore whatever solution we're looking to implement, adopt and implement, it always needs to be at scale. So that's one challenge that we've seen. I'll also talk to you about what are some of the ways in which we're countering or responding to those solutions. At Amazon, we founded a $2 billion venture capital fund called the Climate Pledge Fund. The idea of this fund is to invest in solutions, in products, and in companies that offer solutions and services that can help decarbonizing our operations. So till date, we've got more than 16 to 20 companies that we've invested in, because we understand in order for a solution, there are many great solutions out there, but in order for those solutions to be scalable, I think funding is a key barrier. And therefore, through this fund, we are enabling that funding to become accessible to companies and startups and organizations that need it. So that's one. The second one, and we've often seen this, and we've seen this emerge over the past few years, are regulations, policies. Oftentimes, businesses trying to become more sustainable, going down a decarbonization journey, are met with often many barriers from a policy perspective that doesn't allow you to fully scale and implement solutions that you want. We've seen initially, right now, we've seen renewable energy policies become very favorable for businesses, and therefore you see that adoption. When we started off and we announced our electric vehicle deployment, there were no electric vehicle favorable policies that were in existence. We took a bold bet, we made that commitment. We've seen policy emerge, we've seen a lot of states, both at the central government through Niti Aayog, as well as at state government levels, also implement favorable EV policies, mandating or making provisions for certain percentages of fleet to be electric vehicles. So you see that when that happens, from a regulatory framework perspective, adoption becomes easier, there's less friction, and therefore you see many things scale. So I would say definitely policy. I think having conversations, dialogues with policymakers is an important part of it, and from a business perspective, that's an important gateway. And the third and final one we've seen, again, from an Amazon perspective, is collective action. I think oftentimes it's very easy for you to sit in a silo, say, okay, this is how I'm decarbonizing my business, this is how I'm getting my business to be more sustainable. But the truth of the matter is that there are external dependencies. We operate in an ecosystem, we have multiple other stakeholders that also are involved, and therefore collective action needs to be at the heart of everything that organizations and businesses do. I've talked to you about our climate pledge, which is our way of bringing forth that collective action across, it's industry agnostic and sector agnostic. So bringing together that kind of collective action commitment to, again, being net zero, to decarbonizing, is another crucial way. It is a challenge, but it's also a way in which we're trying to address that challenge.
Valid point, Shweta, and I'll come to both because I have questions for Chitra as well as for Anita. For Chitra, the one element which Shweta mentioned was, what is your personal organizational commitment and what are the initiatives? So what is it that Persistent Systems is doing around SBTi and net zero carbon emission? What are the initiatives, and what are the initiatives that you think as a sector, as a whole, can take up, which can be a learning, which can help us in climate action?
So, of course, everybody summed up what they are doing, and we are no different. We are doing the same thing, measuring what we emit and then taking actions to abate them. So one is, the first thing is looking at, because IT companies, we are looking at, smaller places which can be present within the cities. So called as hotspots or hot offices, where people can avoid the long distance traveling, going to a office which is far away from the city. So that is the hybrid workspaces what we are looking at. And two, all our new offices are we are looking into the smart spaces. So everything is controlled through technology, through IoT and artificial intelligence and so on. So we work with VWorks and SmartsWork for that. And all our infrastructure are designed, the upcoming infrastructures are designed for the new age hybrid working, where you'll have a lot of social spaces, collaboration spaces, the AV setups, and so on. And there's the days have gone where you had a cubicle space within the office and so on. So bring in more of natural daylight, bring in more of indoor green environment within the office space so that they boost the productivity and employees feel good about it. The well standards are followed in each of our buildings and so on. So while they also focus more on the people, because we are the people-centric organization, but it will benefit you on a sustainability front as well, like Prabodha and Anirban, both of them said. So we implemented these as a business opportunity. How do we deliver value to our people? Because people are our biggest stakeholders. So what is that we need to do for our people? And then implemented all those initiatives, and at the long run, we also get benefit on the environment and society as well as the stakeholders. Now coming to the, in terms of energy, yes, being in the IT industry, we consume a lot of energy. So moving to the renewable sources and the cloud infrastructure. So all of you must be wondering, IT companies must have or has a lot of data storage spaces, but we are moving away from the data center, in-house data center, to the cloud infrastructure. The benefit is the cloud infrastructure, it is expensive, but they use the renewable energy there. So instead of having small data centers within the offices, cooling them, then all our applications, whether it is infrastructure support applications or service-led applications, we are moved into the cloud infrastructure. And then, of course, optimizing the employee transportation today, because after the pandemic, not many people are coming to offices, but we continue to encourage people to work from office, as well as, this is the hybrid model. So we are not building large spaces, but at least, 50% of our people start working from the offices. Yes, of course, the engineers who develop the green code or the software, that is where technology companies can play a larger role. What is the technology which, not as persistent, but any technology companies, how they can actually influence, because technology is the important factor for, for bringing those changes in the space of the sustainability. Whether it is, efficiently using a product, whether it is efficiency using water, or sensing certain, heating or lighting or cooling requirement, yes, technology is the biggest thing there. And how technology companies, they're doing wonderful things in this space, and most of you have been using all this, to bring in those efficiency measures, and I think technology companies have a larger role to play here.
Thank you, Chitra, for that. Now coming to Anita, there are two things I will mix here. You are working, you are executive director at TREE, which is a knowledge generator around climate action, climate change, and those initiatives. So from a policy perspective, I'll give you a challenge. What Prabodh mentioned as a framework for greed, fear, and recognition, how policies can play a role across these three for business to contribute towards sustainability goals?
Well, I think the normal framework that you look at of the carrot and stick, in a way, service your... Yeah, I'm coming to that. But normally they would take care of, if you looked at the stick and you're talking about regulation, then it is around cesses and taxes and fines and related aspects of nudging and pushing people towards a better way of doing business. And then when you look at the carrot, a lot of it is obviously structured around issues that Shweta raised about how do you support behavioral change, how do you support the gestation period of new innovation to be actually able to be going out there and deploy at scale. How do you look at R&D investments being supported because you're asking for fundamental transformation and change? And a lot of policy tends to be structured around either the greed or the fear aspect of business. I think I'll come to recognition later, but there are a couple of points that I did want to put on the table. One is Vibrant last year had come out with the Greenness of Stimuli Index, which looked at $17.2 trillion of spending by 30 countries, the G20, plus 10 other countries that they analyzed, in terms of the COVID-related commitments that were made by various countries. So that $17.2 trillion was analyzed for its net impact on climate change. whether it's net positive or whether it's net negative. 15 out of the 20 countries actually had a net negative impact on environment. And 5 of the other 10 countries, again, had a net negative impact. And here I'm not factoring in the aspect of nature, because biodiversity often gets completely forgotten about. I'm glad, our colleague from JSW spoke about a 90% dependence on nature of the business and the related implications, but we often tend to forget about that. So if you actually put in the filter of nature positive or nature negative, the numbers look even worse. And I think the larger question, therefore, is if you have $17 trillion of stimuli put out there, and the net achievement is negative from an environmental point of view, where really are we shaping our policy in terms of meeting the goals that we've set out for ourselves in terms of decarbonization or biodiversity positive? That's one. The second is, I think, the whole aspect about taking a siloed approach to different ministries when they look at policies. So a simple example that we deal with at A3 often is large goals around afforestation, because the NDCs of the country have 2.5 to 3 million CO2 tons being reduced from extra being generated from a point of view of natural approaches to nature-based solutions and reducing carbon emissions. Automatic answer is afforestations. Corporates tend to jump into that bandwagon and say, our employees are involved, we are planting trees all over the country. Often trees are getting planted in deserts, trees are getting planted in grasslands. Nobody is reviewing mortality over a period of time. And the question therefore yearly is, how deep do you want to go into looking at the solutions rather than just being superficial about it, one. Second is, how do you ensure that good and noble gestures in one part in one ministry don't actually land up having unintended consequences, which are even more profound from the larger natural world perspective. Agriculture looks at solutions in a certain way and policy in a certain way. Transportation looks at it in a different way. Urban environments look at it in a third way. The Environment Department looks at it differently. Energy Ministry looks at it differently. So as a country, if we have to realize that the climate crisis is interconnected, the biodiversity crisis is interconnected, then how are we kind of bringing the different pieces together when we solution for policy? I just want to leave these two important points on the table. I think incentives and regulation is something all of us know in this room, but I thought from a government perspective, these were critical. The last being the government itself is a large spender, right? From a procurement perspective, from a spending perspective. So how does the government start looking at its public procurement policy to be more oriented towards shaping the agenda around greener products? And stop at that here.
Thank you. I think we had good session. One advantage is, other than knowing more about what each company is doing and about the topic, it also took away from my mobile for 1 hour, which I'm not sure I can say for everyone here. So now this is an opportunity to look beyond your mobile phones and have some questions, some interaction with the panelists here around the topic that we are talking about. Yeah, I see a very eager hand out there. So I'll go with him. Yeah, please. So do tell whom the question is addressed to and make it brief. Then I have to cut the question then. So.
Okay, the question is addressed to Prabodha. I am Sudhir from the IT industry and working in a certain project. The question is, has JSW being a very, very large organization considered traceability, backward and forward traceability to manage sustainability? That's short enough for you, sir?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful question, and that's a learning for all of us.
I think that's a fantastic question. I'll tell that on the traceability of backward and forward, we are starting the journey. It's not that traceability is already there, but I will admit we are starting the journey. I'll give a couple of examples why I'm telling the starting journey. You might be hard about doing the LCAs and EPDs. So it's a kind of traceability that we are establishing. The other kind of traceability exists when we produce and sell it to the customers. If your question, because I understand you are from IT industries, how we can digitize that and we take the advantage of the technology to use it, whether it's a blockchain or whether other technologies. That's where our focus is. And please understand that we possibly are the few organization in the world where we have a chief digitization officer. So we're trying to digitize all our processes, and this is high in our agenda. Couple of projects are ongoing, but I hope someday we'll be world class.
It's sad that you're not able to participate in the Earthcare Award.
Hi, this is Vasu Deshpande. I have a question. Could you elaborate some of the initiatives you may already be taking or intend to take to bring in more collaboration between the companies, the various government departments, and general public as a whole?
So this is again for Prabodh. So I think he's the famous person out here. Yeah. So, but no, I think I can put it to Shweta as well. If you have initiatives as well as government. Yes.
No, I think I will take from Shweta, because she started with the collaborations, and we believe in our organization is the collaboration is very important going forward to solve at least the climate crisis what we are facing. One person, one organization, one country is not going to solve this problem. What we are doing is trying to identify those organizations around the world which is known as nowadays clean tech, and encourage them by giving money, but we are trying to find out specifically in decarbonizing in the steel and cement sector. We are identifying, making collaboration. We already have done a lot of collaboration. One such example in India, you might be heard about something called India Hydrogen Association. This is an industry-led association started long before we had hydrogen mission to influence government to come out with the missions, and we played a significant role. It started with the business like JSW, Reliance, Chart Industry. We started the India Hydrogen Association, and it is doing a wonderful job in influencing and bringing in all stakeholders. Right now we have even brought research organizations across the globe, investment organizations like EIB into the fold, and we are working very closely with the government organizations. This is one of the examples of what we are doing collaborations. But besides that, on the technology front, we are already into it, and we are doing the collaboration, including our supply chain partners also. Right? Thank you.
I'll just add, I think I've emphasized enough about collaboration and collective action being the bedrock of many of the things within sustainability that we're trying to do. It continues to be the vehicle through which you can really accomplish large-scale change. And bring, just to call out certain partnerships that we've been part of here in India. We've obviously got a lot of partnerships that we've engaged with at a global level. In India, for example, we are part of the Shunya campaign that the Niti Aayog launched, which ensures zero emissions last mile delivery. So we're part of that, reinforcing our commitment to decarbonization, but also sending out signals that the initiatives taken by government and policymakers is the right thing. We're part of the India Plastics Pact. It's part of WWF, and again, it brings together different stakeholders from different industries, including FMCG, multitude of industries, bringing them together to address the plastic challenge that's very pertinent in our country today and in the world at large. So multiple partnerships. I think, again, partnerships is a very important part of the way in which we accelerate progress on sustainability. I hope that addresses your...
I'll just add with one thing. JSW Times of India Earthcare Award is a great example of starting the collaborative process. I told this is one of the platform.
I want to just quickly address the public or the larger, the common man, for example, right? When organizations like Amazon become part of these partnerships, we indirectly bring on the customers that we serve into the whole picture. For example, when you have zero emission last mile deliveries, those deliveries are taking place to customer doorsteps. And we're working right now with the government. There is a customer-facing campaign, which is part of the Shunya campaign that we're currently working on. So it brings forward these initiatives, but acknowledges that, and customers are made aware of these initiatives. So they inherently, you bring in the customer and people at large through these.
Hi, I'm Vijay and I represent Brigade Group. So I have a couple of questions. One is for Anita Anujadas and another one is Mr. Prabodh Acharya. So my first question is the Mahindra Lifespace, they recently came up with net zero homes in Bangalore of the Kanakpura Road. So I would like to know, is it a operational net zero or a project net zero? And if it is a project net zero, what were the challenges in managing the embodied carbons of the selected materials?
I must clarify that it's 5 years since I left the group, but from what Anirban could go into greater detail, but it is at the project level at the moment, the first project that is being looked at net zero. Anirban, you want to take the rest of the question?
So, you know, every time there's a conversation on net zero, we've got to put boundaries. The project clearly states net zero energy. It's not net zero everything. It's not possible today. It is net zero energy also from a perspective of when the buildings are being used. So there are PPAs being put in place for renewable energy so that it continues to be net zero energy in operations. There were a whole bunch of challenges. We'll spend the whole day discussing them. But I'll leave you with one or two thoughts. If you want to build a net zero building today, you will find it very difficult to get an architect, a landscape person who's in that journey today. So you've got to start from there and then ensure that the design, the passive design, etc., which Anita knows better than me, is all in place so that you can do the necessary mitigation and you give yourself a better chance to be able to make it net zero energy. Mahindra Lifespaces has also committed to build net zero energy buildings only from 2030. They might start earlier. 2030 gives ourselves enough time to finish existing projects which are difficult to make net zero. Long time ago, Anita had made the commitment of building green only, when building green was something very strange. Most of us, when we buy an apartment, don't ask for a green building. If we did, we would be able to accelerate the process. I dare say some people are asking as well. If, with your permission, may I add to the conversation on collaboration a bit? After all, I did give you all 8 extra minutes, right? So, yeah, so, you know, I want to go beyond the regular conversation on collaborations. Of course, we must collaborate. I mean, that's an easy answer. Question is, collaborate for what? And collaborate how? So we are all members of whole bunches of industry associations, plastics, this, that, and the other. I will take a couple of examples. One was, there was this little group inside WBCSD India which wanted to enable electric vehicle transportation. So we could have gone the regular route of working together, making a report, driving policy, which is what associations normally do. But we actually didn't do that. We said that all stakeholders of the EV industry are represented in this committee. And we are all trying to solve the EV problem, so why don't we solve it for somebody? Luckily, we had 2 or 3 people in that committee who had committed to becoming EV 100 organizations, one of whom was Amazon. So SBI, Amazon, Wipro. And we said, look, everything you're saying we must do, the batteries, the charging, the materials, the vehicles, we are all here. Why don't we help one of these EV 100 companies figure out a way of how to get to EV 100, because then we have a good proof of concept to share for further policy. It's not as if policy wasn't happening. And I dare say Amazon played a wonderful role in driving that conversation forward as a custodian of the benefits, really, because unless you have a demand, and this is why I was saying if we asked for green buildings, we would build demand. So as for building demand for other members of the ecosystem to help them become EV 100, I understand at that time Amazon's goal was 20% electric vehicles in the fleet. I forget the duration, whether it was 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or something like that. So that was the goal, and that's how we drove the partnership for it to be meaningful. Similarly, and Anita was a member of that, there was a partnership for sustainable housing. So 5 big developers had come together, And we had a very simple goal. We said, what do we do to ensure that everything that is built in our country is built green? That was the purpose. In the short term, we said, what is it that we really need? And the coalition agreed that if we simply got accelerated approvals, we don't need anything else. Technology is in place, we can build green buildings, and we will be able to give a good offer to the client. So they went ahead, they worked with various municipal bodies. Some of them came forward and gave some sort of incentives, either accelerated approvals or reductions on property tax and so on. And so that was another example of a partnership or a collaboration with a specific purpose, achieving a specific goal. So to sum up, we must have collaborations because these problems are too big for any individual organization to solve. But when we are having collaborations, we should try and have a goal that we want to achieve, because only then we'll keep moving forward. We are in the city of Bangalore, so I can't resist mentioning my friend Monisha Lobo, who is now called the garbage lady. She's a proper MBA, she's worked in fancy organizations, lives in Frasertown, and has single-handedly taken on the project of making Frasertown a zero waste to landfill community. She's of course got friends along in the process now. And she's not the only one, there are many more in Bangalore. I don't remember all of them. One place has a club, Emerald Palms or something like that, or Palms. Anyway, the point is that there are actually communities here in Bangalore who are collaborating amongst themselves to achieve the purpose of being zero waste to landfill communities. It's a great step forward. So again, let me conclude by saying collaborations necessary, collaborations good, we are all in many of them, but having purpose and achieving a goal through collaborations far more powerful than anything else.
Hi, I'm Chandrabhushan. I would like to give a little background before I ask a question, a background to a question, right? Of course, a conclusive summary, what we take it, the businesses by finance and for finance. At the same time, when we are talking about the basic definition of sustainability, right, producing anything or adopting a business cycle or a process where and all, we ensure that there is no harm to the environment, okay? And of course, to add the earth care we talk about, and ultimately everything is to save the nature, and most importantly, the 8 billion family, 8 billion family you can say of the world, right? The human, to save it, that is the most important aspect. Taking the Indian perspective, right? We are now world largest family or a cluster of in terms of population, leading behind the China also, okay? And the growth, what we see it, 75 to 2010 population was doubled. Now we are 1.4 billion, and probably another 30 to 40 years of time, the growth will be much higher, right? So if population growth is very exponential, the demand for every product is very high, More cars are required, more houses require, more cloths require, more cement require, more iron, be it anything, more production is required. So the pace of, as you said, technology are on place, right? And if we get the clearance, right, adoption could be very faster. So my question is very research oriented, anybody can take up. Is the gap between the demand of the production and the speed of attaining the 100% sustainability, or whatever the goal, the best goal is achieved, is widening because of population, or it is narrowing it? Of course, there are many case studies where we might have achieved milestone on this project, we saved this much energy or whatever. But my question is a wider perspective, right? So this hall is of, say, 200 people. Within time, we become 400 people. More tea is required, more chairs required. So demand, production has to follow the pace, right? And are we going in the same pace? The curve is going in the same pace. The gap is broadening or narrowing? That is my question, because you will have lots of research you are doing on that.
See, I don't think here we are going to get a definite answer around those questions.
Any problem?
Perspectives can be there. There can
Yes,
be
yes.
perspectives. So, for us,
I've seen you on enough forums. I think you know the answer. Obviously broadening. Emissions are supposed to get cut to half by 2030, which means we should be on a downward curve. We are not. Emissions are increasing every year. However, the reason why I took the microphone was not to tell you this, because I know you know this. The problem is not so much population anymore. Population is going to moderate. The only place where population will grow is Africa. Again, you know this, India's population will moderate by 2040, 2050. The problem right now is increase in affluent lifestyles. Consumption, affluent lifestyles, and so on. Because, poor people don't have emissions, only rich people have emissions. And so as we are all getting richer, as we are, and whenever we see those lovely GDP numbers, remember we've got a little richer, which means we've consumed some more, which means we've caused some emissions, because we still haven't figured out a way of production without doing emissions, or consumption in a manner in which we are planet friendly. So right now we are losing the game, there's no doubt about it. We will hit 1.5, 2, maybe even faster than what the IPCC report said. And honestly, we don't know when the thing is going to turn. But we know that we must do whatever we can do today. And there are the right question to ask is, whatever we can do today, are we doing it to the best of our ability? The answer to that is no. And that's why we are all talking, because if we start doing what we can do today the best of our ability, that's the best chance we stand.
Thank you. And this is what when Prabodha mentioned as well, that efficiency becomes a critical element, that we have, whether we are reducing waste, whether we are being more efficient, whether at the end of the day, consumption, I'm not sure whether consumption, it may stabilize, but it's increasing. So we are demanding more, we are asking for more, and that is creating that kind of gap. But yes, these are the questions that on which we need to find answers as well. And also going further, this is the kind of information we have to pass through as well. Moving forward, where people are more aware, and that is very critical element. Yeah. Last question?
Yes.
This is the last question. Oh, that's good.
Hi, I'm Vachna. I work for Akshay Kalpa Organic. My question is to Anita and Chitra. When we talk about organic farming, we talk about organic farmers being climate farmers. Because when they do organic farming, they put life back in soil, and soil becomes capable of absorbing carbon from the environment and causes carbon sequestration. But food doesn't get mentioned too much in ESG. Do you see organic food becoming a part of ESG at some point?
I'm not an expert on the subject, but I think the larger issue around the points you raised are very relevant in terms of soil health and carbon sequestration potential. I think the larger issue is about the economics around organic farming. It works well in small pockets at a certain level, people who are interested by, but at large scales where you're looking at feeding populations of significant numbers, currently the economics are not stacking up in terms of organic farming being a substitute for the current farming practices. And that is where the largest challenge is at the moment.
So when we supply food for our people in our offices, right, we don't talk about that. We only talk about how the vendor can actually supply food at the green energy, right? What is the energy source they are using, or the distance from which the food is coming to you. It's about your transportation emissions and so on. Of course, yes, as she said, economy is the biggest part there. So the per meal, what is the cost you incur? And what is that, if you're providing free food to your employees, then you have to even more look at that, because it's not the choice of an employee to buy the food, Of course, if you have a large building spaces and you have multiple, there are companies where they have installed organic meal stalls, organic food stalls, or including the confectionery item which they can buy. But when you provide food, to your employees free of your cost of your offices, which Persistent does, we provide free food for our employees, IT company. And we only go by the two measures. What we ask in our supply chain is, what is the fuel you're using and what is the distance from which the food is supplied, but not on the materials which is used. Of course, all the calories, nutrition, all of that is, the meal is designed as per that, but not from an organic perspective.
Thank you. I'll stop here. I realize there is a question, but we are here. You can ask those questions in person to people because there is a time limit as well. I would like to thank my co-panelists as well for making the session very interactive, and for the audience as well for posing those questions and participating in the discussion. Thank you, and over to you.
Yes, thank you. Let's have a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We request our moderator to kindly hand over the samplings to all the distinguished panelists here on stage, please. We request all of you to kindly stay glued to wherever you are. We have a small token of appreciation. We have the planned samplings for all the distinguished panelists here. We have bags as well. We have the eco-friendly bags so that all of you can carry it home safely. Yes.
Why there is no clap?
Let's have a big round of applause. We'll have a group picture.
Oh, mine as well. I'll take mine. I'll give you. Oh, it's fine.
Let's capture this happy moment. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Well, quite an interesting and an insightful session, I must say. Let's have a big hand of applause for all these fabulous people here on stage, please. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you. Thank you. And before we move on to the last interesting session, we are going to be having a quick networking break for 5 to 10 minutes. So I request all of you to kindly refresh yourselves. We're going to be having a coffee tea break for last 10 minutes. And after that, we are going to be having an interesting session on Dr. Prabhakar Rao by Haryali Seeds. So please feel free to walk up. We're going to be having the last session. And now all of you who want to ask those questions, please feel free to ask them during the networking break. And we request all of you to kindly be back here in exactly 10 minutes from now. Happy networking, and everybody can enjoy your sip of coffees and teas. Thank you.
manufacturing hub for non-commercial vehicles, and it is also the only carbon-neutral manufacturing facility in India. It has taken several steps to improve technological processes to enhance energy efficiency. It has eliminated the use of plastic bottles in and around the plant. The company has also initiated a watershed project to store 20,000 kiloliters of rainwater, which fulfills its total non-drinking water requirement. It is a zero wood disposal plant, as all the packaging has been converted into returnable or reusable packaging. Every patch of land around the plant is covered with grass and trees. Orchards, medicinal plants and native species have been planted to restore natural diversity. 83% of the available land has trees planted on it. Most of the area is micro-irrigated with recycled water from sewage treatment plant and biofilters. Auto Giant Mahindra & Mahindra's Igatpuri plant is a major engine manufacturing hub for non-commercial vehicles, and it is also the only carbon-neutral manufacturing facility in India. It has taken several steps to improve technological processes to enhance energy efficiency. It has eliminated the use of plastic bottles in and around the plant. The company has also initiated a watershed project to store 20,000 kiloliters of rainwater, which fulfills its total non-drinking water requirement. It is a zero wood disposal plant, as all the packaging has been converted into returnable or reusable packaging. Every patch of land around the plant is covered with grass and trees. Orchards, medicinal plants and native species have been planted to restore natural diversity. 83% of the available land has trees planted on it. Most of the area is micro-irrigated with recycled water from sewage treatment plant and biofilters. Auto Giant Mahindra & Mahindra's Igatpuri plant is a major
picture of both of us, if you don't mind.
You want on stage?
Can you give me 30 seconds to steal it?
Website connect you to
Yeah, yeah,
you
there.
who are doing it, so you can copy it. So give me just drop me an email. So Indian
Check, check. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, last final announcement for all of you to kindly get seated, kindly get settled, please. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm hoping that everybody enjoyed your sip of coffees and teas. Yes? Yes? Can I hear a louder yes? Superb, amazing. Okay, so before we move forward, we request all of you to kindly visit our website, which is www.earthcareawards.com, to know about the categories, past winners, and do surely participate and let the world know about your initiative we are celebrating today. And now we move on to the last session by Dr. Rao, who's the founder from Haryali Seeds. A quick intro about Dr. Rao. He's a prominent figure in encouraging chemical-free natural farming methods based on Vedic agricultural techniques. He has 35 years background in sustainable agriculture, and while pursuing his PhD in plant breeding and genetics, he found his passion for preserving endangered plant species. Haryali Seeds is a family-run farm which curates species of endangered and heirloom seeds from all over the world. He has designed several sustainable architectural projects in the Far East, Africa, and the Americas over the past 20 years. He's also consulted on several iconic projects in different parts of India, which includes the Statue of Unity, Central Vista redevelopment, new Parliament building, Kashi Vishwanath Temple corridor, to name a few. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great honor and privilege to be welcoming Dr. Prabhakar Rao from Haryali Seeds to join us on stage, please. Let's have a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and a very warm welcome to you, sir.
Good afternoon, and I thank JSW and Times of India for giving me this platform. I am in such august company, large corporates doing their bit to reverse and mitigate climate change. And then I think the organizers wanted a perspective to balance this. So I am a one-man show who is trying to do my bit. And I think I represent millions of individuals, Aam Aadmi, who are also wondering what we can do to contribute to this rather large question that hangs on our head regarding climate change. I am a seed keeper, and I preserve endangered indigenous vegetable seeds, but that is my passion. Apart from that, I basically am an architect. I'm a landscape architect, and I consult for several projects. The last one was the new parliament that got inaugurated just last week. So wonderful to be here with you all. So my journey actually starts a few years after we got married. We were rummaging through my wife's trousseau, and we found this book. It's a beautiful book. It was published in 1951, and it is called Samaityu Par, which means cook and see. It's basically a book on vegetarian Indian cooking, South Indian cooking to be precise, and every self-respecting family ensured that the daughter-in-law entering the house would be given a copy of this. My wife happened to be one such, so she received this. So after a couple of years of marriage, we found this book and we thought it was fascinating. And we started to see and slowly getting into cooking. So my wife said, let me try and make a few recipes from this. Now, what we discovered was that more than 60% of the recipes there, we would never be able to cook because these vegetables have vanished from the shelves in our market. You don't see these vegetables. Like, for example, you have this particular one, which is called the makli beru. Yeah? My grandmother used to buy this from the market, and she used to make wonderful drinks during the winter to keep your body nice and warm. We couldn't find this. We found this wild gourd, which is the Momodica species. Again, beautiful dishes are described in that book, but I don't see these vegetables in the market. Clove bean, for example, it is called the long barbati, and it is a very beautiful, these are plants which anybody can grow. You don't have to be a gardener, you don't have to have green thumb to grow these vegetables. And yet, they've disappeared from the market. Another one, for example, is this, of course, the makli beru that we came across. And then it sort of struck me very odd because we are living in a time where awareness of what's happening in the environment is is so much. I mean, one shark getting extinct or one whale in decimating numbers, and everybody knows about it. And I couldn't, for the love of God, imagine how right in front of our eyes, vegetables, which are a part of our culinary culture, just disappearing from the planet. So I said, I mean, what is this story and why is this? Of course, I have a PhD in plant breeding and genetics in horticulture, and I immediately could make that connection because of the advent of industrial agriculture, the hybrid seeds and everything. People eat what is given to them. And there is no concept now of something called my old vegetable. It is bhindi, palak, brinjal and tomato and potato and whatever. That's there on the supermarket shelf, and you make some recipes with that, and that you're content with that. So when I started to look at various interesting facts, one of the things that emerged was our state of Karnataka, it has a huge culinary history. This is a 16th century book called Supashastra. This Supashastra, because I believe in that part of the Vijayanagar kingdom and the Rashtrakuta Empire and all that, the chef was elevated to royalty status. He used to be the court's royal chef. He was given royal status. And the culinary expertise of India reached the the Mesopotamia, Iran, and Persia, and all these Central Asia. It went on to Cambodia, Indonesia. Apparently, Karnataka was known for its culinary expertise. Even today, a lot of the families where males are cooks, we have the Bunt families, and North Karnataka, we have families where the male as the chef, yeah, they are the ones. They descend from this parampara. And in this book, there are 17 types of rasam that are described. Today we may have 2 or 3 types of rasam. The reason why the others are missing is the ingredients, the leaves which went into it or the vegetables which went into it are not there anymore. So this sort of really got my goat, and I said, what is happening and what can I do about it as an individual? Yeah? So I was based in Dubai. My consultancy was based in Dubai. I came back only in 2011, but I contacted an organization called the International Seed Savers Association, and I said, what is it that you are doing? What is it that I can do for you? And they said, listen, if you're traveling to remote areas, speak to old-timers, old farmers, of the earlier generation farmers, see if they have anything left with them. Few seeds, if there are, send it to us. We will take care of it. We will multiply it. We will purify it. We will make it available to public again. And I kept doing that. In 2011, when I came back to India, I had a farm very close to where I stay. On the Kanakpura road, and I said, I need to really get into this. And at that time, what struck me was, you know, Karnataka has a dish called the Vangibath. Yeah? It was a very famous dish. Like when we grew up, every restaurant worth its name would serve Vangibath. And the taste of the Vangibath came from the brinjal that was used in it, which is called the Yirengere brinjal, which comes from near Mysore. Now, it is only that brinjal that can give you the authentic Vangibath. You have a wannabe Yirengere, which is a hybrid brinjal, which you will now find in the market. You use that, it's like sawdust. And restaurants today have actually taken Vangibath off their menu because it doesn't taste the same. What happened to those Yirengere brinjals today? So I took up this entire journey where I said, you know, in our Panchang, in our olden day, we had actually a calendar which said what we should eat at which time of the year. During Phalgun Mas, during Chaitra Mas, what vegetables we should eat. We had a 12-month calendar almanac which said what vegetables, what fruits you should eat, which will protect your health. Today, with cold storage and supply chain, bhindi, brinjal, tomato is available throughout the year. Cabbage, cauliflower, whatever you want, carrot, everything is, there is no concept of seasonal vegetable. our ancients believed that food itself was a medicine. If you ate the right food at the right time, your body would be healthy, was the understanding. We seem to have somewhere missed out on this. Yeah? So I said to myself that we need to, so by the time I had contributed to the Seed Savers Exchange in the US, and then I said, okay, in Bangalore, let me start a campaign to save seeds of endangered vegetable species. And one of the articles that really caught my attention, and this was in the 2007 issue of National Geographic, was this infographic, which says just among some 10 selected vegetables in the US, how many vegetables were there about 70, 75 years ago to what is there today? You can see it's nearly like 95% vegetables have gone extinct. Can you imagine? We had something like 428 varieties of peas, matar. Today we have nothing. We've just got a few varieties of peas, sweet peas, and a few varieties of peas. That's it. That's all we have. We had 408 varieties of tomatoes. Gone. We had beans. We had so many varieties of beans, cauliflowers, cabbages, beets, all gone. This was in 1983. If we took it today, 99% has disappeared. So it is very important. And what I am really going to speak about is how you corporates, actually at your organizational level, using your staff and your manpower, which is there in your organization, how each of them can be a part of sustainable biodiversity preservation. So that's what I want to speak to you about. So I started this journey, and I travel a lot because of my architecture. So I go to very remote areas, and I promote natural farming, which is the buzzword now with the government. It's different from organic farming. Natural farming is what I promote. I work with 22 lakh farmers across the country promoting this. And the prerequisite for natural farming is desi seeds. It's the native indigenous heirloom seeds. And collecting these seeds has become my passion. So I meet farmers across the country, especially in the tribal areas near Aurangabad, in the Chhattisgarh area, Odisha, in the northeast. I was just there in Assam 2 weeks ago. I was addressing the National Conclave on Natural Farming as the keynote speaker. So I was collecting seed. Everywhere I go, I collect seed. And eventually what happens is, I have developed in my very small, I have a 1 hectare, 2.5 acre patch of land, but there I do exclusive protection and maintenance of endangered vegetable species, some which had already become extinct, so to speak. Yeah? So if you go to my website and see just beans, if you just take beans, you will find I have maybe more than 17 varieties of beans. Each of them magnificent, not just in their look, in their taste, and each of them has a purpose. Some are for fresh salads, some you can cook, some you can fry, some you can make actually juice and drink, raw juice and drink. Similarly, when you take tomatoes, for example, I have more than 35 varieties of tomatoes, which I have been able to bring back from endangered status. And of course, all this is available online. But the point is that these are extremely easy to grow. Even if you have one pot in your balcony, you can grow this, and it makes a huge difference because each of these varieties has got a different purpose. One can be used for making sauce. One can be used for making juice. One can be used as fleshy tomato in the salad. Others are used for cooking. Others are used because they have a sour taste, which is very much required in our cooking. Tomato rasam, for example. We have a wonderful variety from Magadi, which I call Magadi, Desi Magadi. But the beauty about this is, if you grow this plant, every day it will give you 3 or 4 tomatoes. It's never going to be adopted by seed companies because farmers want to harvest everything in 2-3 pickings. They don't want a plant which keeps on giving tomatoes daily. But a housewife needs that. You need to pick. Why do you want to pick 40 tomatoes and you don't know how to use it? You have to distribute it to your neighbors. But if you get 3 or 4 tomatoes a day, it's continuous maturing plant. So these are things which we are losing rapidly. Again, when you look at bindis, would you imagine that there are so many kinds of bindis? I have so many bindis. I have a variety from Sri Lanka. It's like an elephant tusk. It's nearly 2 feet long. It has a very pointed thing. I have a tree called Tenten, bindi tree from Assam, coming from Arunachal. The bindi plant goes into a tree. It's perennial. It doesn't die after a season. You can keep plucking bindis on it, You have colored bindis, you have purple bindis, you've got pink bindis, you've got something that's like touched up with a paintbrush, you've got the Star of David bindi. You've got so many kinds of bindis, all kinds of squashes. So many types of squashes, the pumpkins and the gourds and the squash gourds and the sponge gourds and tulsis and basils. I have more than 17 varieties which I have been able to bring back from endangerment, including a variety called Vrind Tulsi. Vrind Tulsi was an ancient tulsi that was grown in Vrindavan, but somehow we lost it. And again, finding that particular plant, characterizing it, botanically identifying it, and then making sure that we preserve the seed with its integrity, not let it cross-pollinate, but keeping the integrity of seed. That is what I do. So, in a period of about 11, 12 years now, I have managed to get my hold on over 2,000 endangered vegetable seeds, of which successfully I have been able to save about 500 varieties of vegetables from extinction. Now, what I want to talk about, because I know you're corporates, and I have been to many of your corporate organizations where I've been asked to speak to your employees. Now, one of the things that I always check in a corporate is their pantry or their canteen. What is the beverages that you serve there? Okay? Invariably, it's all these Sprites and Pepsis and Colas, and now you have Sting, something like that. So you have Red Bull and whatever. And these are extensively consumed by your employees. I'm not even going to go into talk about the deleterious effect on health of these beverages. That's not what we are here to discuss. People like it, so they take it. But if I need to focus on something else that as a corporate you can do, and I did this as an experiment to one of the leading beverage companies in India. What they came back to me after 2 years was that they had an enhanced productivity just by this change of 18% in their employees. This was their feedback to me. And this is so simple to do because I've made a 7-day calendar for the companies. And all the plants that I've listed here will grow without any effort. Whether you have a small garden, a small fencing, you have a few pots on your terrace, balcony, wherever in your company, I can show you how easy it is to grow this plant. Okay? So the first one, which I said for Mondays, okay? For Mondays, I have listed this particular plant, which is such a lovely plant. In Ayurveda, it is called Aparichita. And the scientific name is Clitoria. And it's one of the very expensive designer teas, which is called the blue tea. Because when you take this flower, and it grows very beautifully, especially in Bangalore, Karnataka, South India, North India. It just grows so beautifully. When you take this flower, whether it's fresh or dried, so the company employees grow this plant, they will harvest it, They will dry it and they will use it. Yeah? When you make an infusion, this is just putting the flowers into hot water, boiling water. Don't boil it, but boiling water, you put it and you close the thing and it will infuse. It will be that beautiful blue color. It's like the blue curacao, liqueur. It's got that lovely blue color. But if you add a squeeze of lime into it, it turns pink. It's very beautiful. So again, what does it do? It gives you, in fact, I think Beyonce, Shah Rukh Khan, I think these were people who actually popularized this because they said it works for their anti-aging. Yeah? So the fact is, it's got incredible amount of antioxidants. So Monday, when you want to freshen up your employees, serve them this. This is something you can grow, you can serve, and you will be contributing to preserving biodiversity on this planet. This is another plant that almost went extinct. It got revived because of the hype, so that's a good thing. The second one is the hibiscus tea. See, you can buy hibiscus tea paying good money for it, but it's the most easy plant to grow because unlike the Hawaiian hibiscus, the hybrid grafted Hawaiian hibiscus, that's very big flower, very colorful flowers, this doesn't get infested with pests. Hawaiian hibiscuses are a nightmare to grow because you get the aphids on them and it's impossible to contain those aphids. But this one, it's like a wild dog. It's like a street dog, It's very hardy. You just put a cutting, you put a plant, it will grow and it will flower profusely. Either dry or fresh, you can make these wonderful infusions, again, full of antioxidants. What are antioxidants? It's basically when you've binged, when you've accumulated stress, there's a lot of toxin in your body. Anything that has antioxidants will take that out of your body, right? So this is another one that can be easily done by any of you corporates. This is a wonderful plant that almost went off because of climate change. In Moldova, I had actually visited there. They used to have these hills in spring. As the snow melts, the whole thing would become blue. It's not the one that we have in the Western Ghats. This is another plant. But because of the climate change, the snow caps went up, and therefore they didn't melt enough to get these plants, and these plants almost went extinct. The Moldavian balm, if the name of that, literally translated in the local language of Moldavia, it says, that which makes a heavy heart light. If you translate the name from Moldovan, it says, that which makes a heavy heart light. Yeah? So for Wednesdays, by which time midweek, there's a lot of heaviness in the office, I would suggest that you have this as your infusion. Because it's incredibly useful to, like I said, it makes a heavy heart light, therefore stress buster. It gives you an uplifted spirit. And more importantly, it is extremely good for your digestive system. And at night, if you have one of this, you sleep like a baby. Yeah? Guaranteed. We have this other one, which is the Desi coriander tea. You have to use Desi seed for this. It doesn't work with the hybrid coriander. Yeah? But if you grow Desi dhania in your office, and the seed of that, you make this tea, this is a wonderful tea. Even today, first thing in the morning, I have this as my tea. And for Thursday, I recommend this. And it's a wonderful thing because if you are having any migraines, headaches, heavy-headedness, eyelids are very heavy, painful eyelids, sinus, all those things, wonderful. More importantly, if you have a HCRP value in your blood test, which is an indicator of inflammation, if it's more than 3, have this for just 1 month, and I guarantee you that inflammation will come down. Yeah? Again, great things for your employees to have as a substitute. Instead of reaching out for that Sprite or Pepsi, give them this. Another one, this is called the Rosella tea. In Telugu, people know about this gongura pachadi. This is made from that. Again, an incredible hardy tree. If this grows in your office, I will challenge you to kill it. It doesn't die. It is so hardy, and that's what you want. I mean, you're all busy people. You want to put something and you want to go and harvest it. It's got the most incredible flowers, the rosella flowers, and you can make a delicious tea. It's a sweet, delicious tea that you can make, and it has got beautiful properties. It's very good for people who are prone to developing heart problems because it dilutes the blood, and then it improves circulation. So wonderful thing to have on a Friday, so because you're getting ready for your weekend, therefore this is a great one to have. Now we have another herb which is called the lemon balm. This lemon balm is a beautiful plant. It belongs to the mint family, like catnip and all that. This is lemon balm. And lemon balm, it's been used for ages. For ages, it is a great one for reducing anxiety, promoting sleep and appetite, and any discomfort from indigestion. So you've had a binge party, you've had a sort of a heavy meal and whatever. This is a great one to start your day with, you know. So this one is what I call a good fix for a Friday evening out. And my most favorite one is what we call the clip daga. The clip daga is my favorite, yeah? And Leonotis is the species, is the genus of this particular plant. There's a little history about this plant, which I'll share with you because I have time. It is said in our Puranas that the Asuras managed to get hold. Actually, they prayed to Lord Shiva. One of them, called Mayasura, prayed to Shiva, saying that, give me the boon that whenever I want a hotline to you. Whenever I want to reach out to you, you should be available for me. That's the boon I want. Since Shiva was very happy with his tapas, so says the Puranas, yeah? So says the mythology. So he said, okay, I'll give you a plant. Now, whenever you have this plant, I will be there. At that instant, I am available to you. So he took this hotline, very nice Wi-Fi kind of an arrangement, and he was very happy because he took it and shared with Asuras, and all the Asuras had a hotline to Shiva. Now the Devatas were appalled. They said, how on earth? I mean, how are we going to manage? As it is, these guys are creating chaos. Now they've got a hotline to Shiva. So this is not going to happen. So they launched a frontal attack to recover this plant. Ultimately, they managed to destroy almost all the plants till one plant was remaining. And then it is said that Mayasura went and hid in the Patal Lok. Patal Lok, roughly translated, if you put a pin through India, it will come through the Central Americas out. And some say that the Mayan civilization is the Mayasura's descendants. Because apparently in those days, we traveled the seas hell of a lot. Yeah? So it is said and this plant today exists there again in a very endangered form. So in one of my travels, I managed to locate this clip daga. And it is a wonderful plant because when you make the tea from this particular plant, it induces a mild sense of euphoria, very mild. I mean, it's not like any narcotic, but it's a very nice, mild euphoria, feel good about everything, and incredible focus, you know. If you're focusing on some work, it's an incredible tea to have before you start because it gets you very focused, very relaxed, very calm, and feeling good about what you're doing, exactly what your company wants from you, right? So the idea was to really talk about my journey as how a common person can still contribute to something as overarching as climate change, biodiversity preservation, and how you as corporates can become a part of this. Because every office which will grow this, you will be contributing to saving this particular plant Because you don't have to buy the seeds, you make the seeds yourself, because that's the best part about indigenous varieties. You become a seed keeper. So you can share it with your other companies, with your suppliers, and everybody can try to match or beat the benchmark set by a beverage company who actually makes these sugar-rich beverages. Their company took on this, and they clocked 18% improvement in productivity. So I leave this with you all to see how you can better that. Thank you so much for your patient hearing, and I hope that I have been able to, in a small way, convey what at an individual level we all can do to mitigating climate change. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
So would you mind taking some questions as we have 5 minutes?
Lovely.
Yes. We already have someone there. Can we have the mic, please?
Yes, you are, but if you take the mic, then everybody else will hear you.
Thank you so much. It was very insightful. Okay, can you hear me? Or? Yeah. Thank you so much. It was very insightful. I just wanted to know one thing. Can we grow these plants inside the office premises? Because if I say my office don't have outside premises.
Yeah.
So can it be grown inside the office?
Yes. The lemon balm, for example, is a plant that you could actually grow near a window. Yeah? If it gets about 4 hours of indirect light, yeah, north light or west light or east light, it will grow because it doesn't have to flower. It's the leaf that you're interested in. So definitely that is something that you can opt to start with. All I'm saying is make the start. Rest of it will follow. Yes, there's a...
Can we grow the seeds in Bangalore, whatever the plants you are suggested? It's sustainable here?
Absolutely, absolutely. I put this not just for Bangalore, or whole of South India. All these plants are indigenous plants. They are plants which originated here. They are plants which we can cultivate without problem. And I've selected these 7 plants deliberately because, like I said, it will be very difficult for you to kill this plant. You could try, but it won't die. Yes,
Dr. Rao, where is your store?
Actually, I do this online, so it's very easy for people to, get the seeds from me. It's on my website. I put it online and I ship it with India Post. So my farm itself is on Kanakpura Road. A dear friend, common friend of ours, Santosh Jairam, he has come many times to my farm, and it's not very far. It's from the Art of Living campus. It's about a 10-minute drive. So on Kanakpura Road. And I do conduct from August, September onwards, if any of you corporates are interested in a day out for your employees, we can work for them to come and see how we do seed saving, how we do seed preservation, and also get a few tips of how to sow a seed, plant a seed, transplant a seed, etc., transplant a seedling, etc. We have a half-day workshop that we conduct, which starts generally around August, September. As the rains fade out, we do this. So
the name of your website?
It is haryaliseeds.com. Haryaliseeds.com.
Sir.
Yes? Yes. Yeah, so it's a dynamic site, so seeds keep coming, so new varieties keep coming, old varieties will wait for the next season because seeds are exhausted. I'm a one-man show, so I do whatever I can in a limited way, entirely through my resources. So it's a dynamic site, so it is not all the time you will find everything, but you may find many things that are not here, which I showed you. But invariably, there's at least 100 varieties of endangered vegetables at any given point on my website.
Hello.
It is called the lion's tail. It's not, no, it's not.
Hello, sir, I'm Guru Raj. ಈ ನಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸತಿವ ಅಂತಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಕರಿ ಜೀರಿಗೆ
ಅದು ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಂಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಈ ಫುಡ್ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದರೂ ಅದು ಯೂಸೇಜು ಮತ್ತು ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ಏನಾದರೂ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ ಸರ್?
ತಪ್ಪದಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು, ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ಅವರ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಷಿಯಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್. ಇದು ಜೀರಿಗೆ ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ ಇದು. ಸೊ ಇದು ನಾಟಿ, ಇದು ಒಂದು ನಾಟಿ ವೆರೈಟಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೌತ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮತ್ತು ಮಹಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ಬಾರ್ಡರ್ ನಾರ್ತ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬೆಳೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದರು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ. ಬಟ್ ಈಗ ನಮಗೆ ಕಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು. ಅಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ದ ಸೀಡ್ಸ್. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಟ್ರೈಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿಸ್ seeds. Few farmers have promised me, so maybe by next year I will have it on my website, sir.
Sir, maybe last question. I'm Dinesh from Tare Zameen Par. I live very close to your Kanakpur Road. I'll definitely visit. Sir, I wanted to know, is there a lifespan for these seeds? If yes, then how do you multiply them, and how do you visualize their whether how do you grow them, to multiply them?
Yes. So in terms of how to grow these seeds, like I said, these seeds are like your street dogs. Gali ka kutta. It is so hardy. It will eat. If you give it something to eat, it will eat. If you don't give it, it will still survive. Yeah? So hybrids and GMOs are like pedigreed dogs. Yeah? If you have a Chihuahua at home, you know what it costs to maintain a Chihuahua. Yeah, it costs hell of a lot of money. Yeah, but these are street dogs or like country chickens. They are very hardy. So growing these is very easy because they are naturally acclimatized to our climate and everything. And this is one of the reasons why we must save them. This germplasm has to be saved to mitigate climate change. Hybrids and GMOs are not sustainable for climate change. They are all grown and tested in laboratory conditions. They will work as long as the climate is correct. For a farmer, if he has unseasonal rains while growing hybrid wheat, for example, it is for him a question of 0 or 100. True. If he gets the right climate, he will have a bumper yield. If he gets the wrong climate, he gets 0 because the thing falls. Whereas a desi wheat like Sona Moti, one of the wheat varieties that I revived, which is a 2,000-year-old emmer species, which is called Triticum spherococcum. It's a round wheat. It's like it's a golden color and pearl in shape. That's how the name Sona Moti was given to it. It is a desi wheat. Whether even if the weather changes, if you have unseasonal rain, unseasonal heat, unseasonal cold, you will still harvest at least 70% of the value of the crop. That is why we must save these indigenous seeds, because these genes were developed by nature over thousands and millions of years. We can't let these disappear in the next 5 years. So to answer your question, the seeds again are very hardy. Unlike hybrid seeds and vegetables, GMO seeds, the moment you take it out of your packet, you have to sow. There is no question of keeping it to the next season. These are kept in very third world jugaad technology. How I save them is, I take them in an airtight container. I put a pinch of hing. Hing is asafoetida, the algae we use in the cooking, right? The hing. That, a pinch of hing and 2 neem leaves, fresh or dry. You just put that and keep it. It will save at least for 4 to 5 years, vegetable seeds will be still germinating, very high germination rates, 90% plus. Unheard of with hybrids and GMOs. Yeah? So they are very hardy. That's why we should go back to our roots. That is what I say. Yeah. Yes, please.
Sensei Raj from Vision India 2032. In fact, what you said earlier in the last answer was the indigenous seeds are the ones which translates to sustainability, not the hybrid ones, and I can't agree more with you. I personally have an initiative in inventorizing the medicinal plants and herbs and also the seeds in the mountain region specifically, because I'm a search and rescue climber in the past. And as such, do you have any initiative that we could join hands, or if there isn't one, can you become a part of it? That's number one. Number two, in your travels, in the indigenous regions, like if you go to the native Indian communities in the American continent and also in the Pacific Islands and also, of course, in our own continent. What have you found that could take us to the next level in bringing back our planet to sustainability? Thank you.
Yeah, two deep questions that you asked there. Now let me take the second one. All over the world, indigenous seeds are facing the threat of extinction. India is not any exception. Whatever is happening in India, you find it across the world. It is only when you go to remote areas which is yet untouched by industrial agriculture that you can hope to get some of the heirloom seeds, the ancient land races you will be able to find there. And especially when you go to developed countries, Europe, Australia, the North America, Canada, Russia, for example, you will find that their problem is worse than ours. At least in India, I can go to my tribal areas and get something. There it's really all gone because it's just miles and miles of monocropping. And it's all using, machinery and hybrid seed and everything, high tech, but indigenous seed doesn't find a place there. So in some ways I feel in India maybe I have a little more time to save compared to other areas. So it's a worldwide problem. It is not so much restricted to India. And to come to your first question, growing medicinal plants or plants which are good for our body was a tradition in our kitchen gardens. My grandmother, for example, used to grow Brahmi at home. When grandchildren running them out, she'll take 2 Brahmi leaves and push it into their mouth. She'll say, you'll become very intelligent. It was a part of our culture. Now, Brahmi, as you know, has got extremely good benefits, including re-engineering the synaptic connections. Yeah? So your memory gets improved, your ability to grasp things improves. It's a proven fact. If you go Google Docs, you go to Scholar Docs and put the research papers on Brahmi, you will find plenty of it. Again, toothache plant, for example. We used to have that, a very interesting plant. And if you have a tooth ache or something, your grandmother will take that flower and she'll press it there. And then you will start salivating and that pain goes away and you feel good. So we had so many things, ashwagandha, amrtapalli, all these plants were a part of our kitchen garden. Dodpatre and all these things, they were a part of our kitchen garden. But we have lost that practice. So I will, be most happy to partner with anybody who wants to bring what we call nutraceutical gardens. This is another buzzword now for CSR with the corporates, nutraceutical gardens. So something that gives you nutrition as well as pharmaceutical, the medicinal, so to speak. So the focus there is on nutrition per acre. If you have a plot of land, how much nutrition are you getting out of it rather than yield? Unfortunately, our green revolution, which I was a part of, which came into this country, we focused on yield, not in nutrition. If the government had mandated us increase nutrition per acre, perhaps our path for development in agriculture would have been completely different. And all this would have been inclusive in that. But we went just for yield. So it's a different ball game altogether. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I was thrilled to see Meenakshi Ammal on screen just now, and it's one of my very precious collections. But my question is, since you have the World Seed Bank, you're also part of it, or would you be putting things in there to, for the future? The third question is that if you can adopt animals, why not adopt these kind of extinct plants, have a cooperative where instead of having people just coming over to see what the plants are, you can have them adopt one and build a model around it. It's a commercial model which you can do.
I think you'll find many takers for this idea. It's such a beautiful idea. Why only adopt animals? You can adopt plants as well, for sure. Okay. To answer your question, all those extinct varieties of Meenakshi Ammal, an incredible woman, You know, in 1951, she not only published this book, she translated it into English and all regional languages. I mean, she was a great woman, very inspiring. Now, when you look at that book, all those pictures that I have put are examples of plants which I have been able to save, which are there in that book, but not found in the market. So today, actually, a corporate could, like for example, clove bean. Yeah? Clove bean, a corporate could actually grow this in your office premises. You could harvest the clove bean, take Meenakshi Ammal recipes for clove bean, you make a dish or a couple of dishes with clove bean and celebrate it as your biodiversity day. It's something that you can do, and you would have contributed because you have saved that particular plant from extinction.
So as we are running out of time, we'll have to end the session. Yes, any other questions, please feel free to take those offline. Thank you. We request Rupa ma'am to kindly join us to hand over the small token of appreciation to Dr. Rao for all of us. Let's have a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us so much information. Well, I must say it was really an informative session where we learned a lot of things. Well, I would also want to come to your farm. Thank you so much. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, once again. Thank you. Well, our social media handle is called the Earth Care Awards in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So please have a look into it for more information. And also, if you have not visited our website yet, now is the time that all of you log on to www.earthcareawards.com to know more about the categories, past winners, and do surely participate in it. And now, yes, it's time for me to thank all of you for making it here and being a superb audience. So let's have a big round of applause to all the distinguished panelists, speakers, and all the partners for making the show a big hit and setting the tone for the 11th edition of the Earth Care Awards. So yes, now before I sign off, it's time for us to mention our proud event partner. Let's have a big round of applause to Cheek Management Services Private Limited, Rahul Katyal, and the entire team for giving us such lovely decor. From all the designing, execution, fabrication, production, everything is done from that one-man army. And let's not forget to thank our proud hospitality partner, the Lalit Ashok Bengaluru. Let's have a big round of applause. And yes, all's well that ends well. Finally, we've come to the end of this beautiful event. So thank you so much, everybody, for making out time and being a part of this lovely event. And let's not forget to save our Mother Nature. And let's do our best by doing small bits in preserving our proud environment in sustainability. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for all that love and support. And now we request all of you to kindly proceed towards lunch. And any kind of questions or doubts or anything, please feel free during the networking and lunch break. Thank you so much. And this is your host, Navita, signing off. Namaste and thank you.
Puri plant is a major engine manufacturing hub for non-commercial vehicles, and it is also the only carbon-neutral manufacturing facility in India. It has taken several steps to improve technological processes to enhance energy efficiency. It has eliminated the use of plastic bottles in and around the plant. The company has also initiated a watershed project to store 20,000 kiloliters of rainwater, which fulfills its total non-drinking water requirement. It is a zero-wood disposal plant, as all the packaging has been converted into returnable or reusable packaging. Every patch of land around the plant is covered with grass and trees. Orchards, medicinal plants and native species have been planted to restore natural diversity. 83% of the available land has trees planted on it. Most of the area is micro-irrigated with recycled water from sewage treatment plant and biofilters.